everyone! Today we're learning all about fonts. Fonts are cool. Fonts are art, believe it or not. Fonts might be the most underappreciated arts out there. People look at the Mona Lisa and say, yeah, that's art, but really who stares at letters and think they're art? I mean, I do, but really only because I'm a huge font nerd. Just to clear things up, typeface and font are not the same thing. Typeface refers to the actual design of the font, such as Helvetica. Fonts are more specific, referring to its instance of use. This might be, for example, 12-point Helvetica. Just some basics to start with, we have something called X height. X height is, the height of a lowercase x. We measure this from the baseline, which is the line where every letter sits upon. We also have cap height, which is the height from the baseline to the top of a capital letter. You might have noticed not all fonts look like the one that we're using. That's because we're using a serif font. Serifs are these little hook things at the end of the letters. Fonts without them are called sans serif fonts. We tend to see serif fonts as more traditional because they were typically used more with letterpress. Once technology got better, we started making modern fonts, which had more contrast, and eventually we moved on to sans serif fonts. Now, on to how we measure fonts. You probably heard that you have to write your paper in 12-point Times New Roman. Yes, we actually do use points as a measurement. 1 point is actually very tiny. There are 72 points in an inch. If you get more into design, you'll probably learn a lot more about picas. There are 12 points in a pica, therefore there are 6 picas in an inch. Points are really a sub-measurement of pica, so sometimes we hear stuff like, this line is 3 picas 11 points. Type is an element of art. If you've ever had to learn about the elements and principles of design, you'll know that one of the elements is space. Space is a critical element of type, as it can act as both positive and negative space. Typographers can create visual interest by using space effectively. Speaking about space, what about the space between letters? Well, we call this letter spacing because we're not very good at naming things. There are 2 types of letter spacing. There's kerning and tracking. Kerning refers to the space between 2 characters, whereas tracking is the space between all the characters. Please, whatever you do, do not increase the tracking of words just to fill empty space. 90% of the times it looks weird, and honestly, don't fear the space. Space is good. Space is your friend. Now that we know some basics about fonts, we're going to move on to how to use fonts. Decorative fonts are fun, whimsical, and have a lot of character. With that comes great responsibility. Unless you are a child using PowerPoint for the very first time, if you use decorative fonts for body text, you are dead to me. You want to save these fonts for big stuff, like headlines. Speaking of which, you see this font? Yeah, you've heard of it. Please, don't. Just pretend it doesn't exist in your font library. Because it shouldn't. It literally wasn't meant to become a user font. You have Microsoft to blame for that. Its entire existence is due to, it looks friendlier than Times New Roman. And before I turn this video into a rant about it, we're going to move on. Here we have an example of a layout. The biggest and boldest words are the headlines, which help us to establish hierarchy. The hierarchy of this layout, like most layouts, go from headline, subheadline, to body text. You can see this through the different uses of weight, color, and location of the text. In this layout, the text is split into columns for easy reading. The width of a column is called the measure. Too short of a measure and text looks ragged and typically results in a lot of hyphenation, which splits up words. Too long of a measure and the text becomes uninteresting and uncomfortable to read. The designer has also used color and size to create a pull-out quote. These are typical magazine layouts and make the overall copy more enjoyable to read. Next, we have a typography no-no, the ever-dreaded widows. Widows are words that sit on a line by themselves, super lonely. You can prevent these by rewriting the copy, playing around with text, playing around with hyphenated words, or the like so it doesn't stand out. Typography can get really complicated really quickly. Using fonts is one thing, creating typography and typographical works is another. In recent years, hand lettering has made a comeback. Calligraphy is on the rise, and I'd probably learn it if I could get that stupid ink bottle open. So, never. But if you've ever seen a piece of hand lettering, you'd probably be able to appreciate the work that goes into it. Regular handwriting is one thing, but to hand letter is to make a piece of art. In addition, creators of fonts put so much thought into the process of making a font. Most of it goes underappreciated. But can you admire the beauty that is the Helvetica A? Just look at it. It's perfection. We, as English speakers and users, should be glad. We have 26 letters in the alphabet, plus some others for punctuation, etc. You can be glad we probably never have to make a font in Chinese because that would be a mess. You'd have to create thousands of glyphs, each distinct character, and you still wouldn't be able to cover every Chinese word. You wouldn't even be close. So, thank God we use English. I hope you learned a lot about typography today, and you can go on with your life appreciating the typographical works that surround you. Thanks for watching!